on Drytron Voiceless voiced out a notable Drytron 1 trick, starting with Drytron Nova, summoning Alpha, then activating Emergency, being met with an Ash, arguably a really bad Ash Blossom. Going into Anima straight away, Alpha will be able to tribute a Drytron monster or a ritual monster in their hand to summon itself and add a ritual monster from deck to hand, tributing Benten in this optimal play to start Drytron 4. The Alpha being met with a Ghost Bell, which is going to negate the activation, so they do not get to special summon the Alpha and search a ritual monster, but the Benten still gets to trigger to add a Light Fairy from deck to hand. We're going to add Benten, another copy of Benten, to our hand, and then it looks like our hand is Zeta Barrier Benten, Barrier being Barrier of the Voiceless Voice. So we're going to go Zeta, tributing the Benten to search any ritual spell in our deck. And then on resolution, the Benten is going to trigger to search another Light Fairy. Also adding Meteor's Drytron to our hand.
So now, already from here, Melodious on 3 cards in hand after coming in with a double hand trap. Is this something that really hurts the deck? Or like in a matchup like this, would you expect it to hurt it? Or do you think it can play through?
Melodious really does not need a lot of card advantage to break boards. The main problem I have here is that the hand traps weren't really efficient, especially with the normal summon of Low coming out here, placing the Radiance from deck, which can get more Voiceless Voice Agent, and Barrier being able to fetch Saphira, which is going to dump itself and the Voiceless Voice Ritual spell to add a Voiceless Voice monster from the graveyard or hand. From the graveyard or deck to hand, sorry.
Yeah, and I think over here we probably have Thomas out of interaction to play on this turn, so it looks like it's a bit of a free roam here for the Voiceless Voice Drytron player.
Exactly. They're probably going to exceed into the Move Beta. Move Beta will unsummon send any Drytron from deck to graveyard. It looks like the Melodious player has opened double first movement solo, which is really bad. As well as a Shopino, which is another in-engine requirement that Melodious unfortunately has to run. We're going to send Gamma, we're going to activate a Meteor's Drytron, detaching the Zeta because it's 2000 attack with a 1600 attack Benten. Remember, Meteor's Drytron works with attack instead of levels. And then activating Saphira to fuse, detaching the Low and the Benten to ritual summon the Skull Guardian. Then we go Chainlink 1 Low, Chainlink 2 Benten, Chainlink 3 Skull Guardian.
Ooh, looks like got a pretty hefty board here to go through 2 hand traps.
Absolutely.
Very important you mentioning how probably hand traps in the incorrect point of time and kind of interaction. But this can kind of show how combining 2 engines can really kind of explode and like get a deck to do a lot more.
Yes, no, this Voiceless Voice board here is going to be very impressive, having multiple interruptions. Probably going to just end on a Orange Light in hand, being able to discard a Fairy monster, and then these Drytron monsters first converting into a Dino Mondo.
Well, yeah, this turn just keeps going. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the only real ritual deck in the current format, or quote-unquote real, for lack of a better word.
It's the most, Voiceless Voice is the most meta-relevant ritual deck in the format, that is correct. But this Drytron brew is relatively not seen often. It's more so, I want to play Voiceless Voice and I want gas. I want engine. And that is what Drytron Voiceless Voice aims to do, making Herald of Mirage Lights here, which can discard any fairy monster to negate a spell trap activated by the Melodious player.
Okay, over to Melodious's turn. Now, this is where I pretty much hand over to you to give us a bit of an idea as to what we're working with, but do you feel it's enough to deal with the board that we have Diane currently set up from down?
I really don't think so. Between Radiance being able to summon or destroy, summon from deck or destroy cards, Thomas controls, and then the double spell trap negates, or the spell trap negate and the Omni negate from Diane, I don't think it's really feasible to try and crack through this board.
Oh, there's the Orange Lights, and then a follow-up here.
It's the Mirage Light discarding the Orange Light to negate the first movement solo. But then obviously since the activation was negated, he can just activate another one.
Okay, what is Dan's next step here with that on the chain? Skull Guardian potentially? Upton looks like he activated the trap there.
Okay, yeah. So it's Radiance. He's going to shuffle back a Ritual Spell, summoning out Seraphis, and then Skull Guardian is going to gate the second first movement solo. On resolution, we're going to normal summon the Refrain. If this isn't met by an answer, it should result in a combo line from Thomas. Diane just quickly taking a second to read his cards over again. Triggers the Seraphis to summon a Ritual Skull Guardian from deck, in fact.
I mean, it looks like Thomas is at least getting something going. Not sure if it's going to be enough with just one card in hand, but staring a board like this down and still progressing is always a good first step.
Yes. Adding Couplet to hand, unfortunately we can't trigger the Couplet effect to special summon a Melodious monster from hand or graveyard because the only Melodious monster we have in our hand is not level 4 or lower. So we're going to scale Couplet, probably activate Couplet to search a Melodious spell trap, most likely Concerto, and from there we can activate the Concerto to fuse with our hand field or pen scales into whatever we desire.
Okay, we've got some progress here. And I must say, Melodious, not a deck I'm super familiar with, but it looks like the fusion package that comes with it seems exceptionally powerful. Is it just the one card, or is it kind of part of the cards that they have like the multiple per turn effects?
It's all the, think of it this way, all the 2015 cards are basically not once per turn, and then all the new cards are.
That's I think that makes a lot of sense with the way we've seen cards being printed. And it's always cool to see further support for a deck theme that's or deck archetype that's existed. But with the new support, is this really going to be enough?
Concerto being negated by the Skull Guardians, the players just back to Diane over here, and unfortunately Diane has really good follow-up because of the Gamma, Alpha, and Zeta in the graveyard, as well as Seraphis.
Yeah, I don't actually know if I can actually foresee a any way that this doesn't end this turn. Really, I mean, Melodious doesn't have much of a board at all. And let's see what ends up happening here. Looks like we just have a little bit of a query here to just check if that is if one of the card's activations was fully seen. But continuing through this turn here, I mean, we did have the Cyber Emergency, I think it's called. Jeez, I'm so unfamiliar with these light cards, light ritual cards that are played.
As a light machine monster, they cannot be normal or summoned or set, which all the Drytrons are. Redeck your hand. And we're just immediately linking this all off for Boral Sword. Why this is relevant is because Boral Sword can turn your monsters to attack position.
And there's the scoop.
The Drytron monsters all 2,000 attack, so 6,000 plus 2,000.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look at that. I mean, a board like that, and I think this shows how important it is to know when to utilize your hand traps in interaction, compared to it just being a case of having them ready to go. I think they were fired off really early. But there's also something in matchup knowledge. And coming in with a deck that I would say is probably very underrepresented. Drytron on its own is not necessarily in its glory days anymore than it used to be in.
It's been a good 3 years since it was last relevant.
And then Voiceless Voice being the new ritual deck on the block, it's coming in. It has put up some good results, but it's fallen off of favor if we compare it to international metas. It's not at the top anymore. It still has a space at the top tables, but it's not the one that's winning all these tournaments or kind of taking a large meta share anymore. So bringing it in and combining it with something that's 3 years back and a modern one, I think a lot of players won't really know always what to do against it or where you should actually be slowing it down. So I think that it is a very interesting tactic to come in. And we are seeing quite a lot of value if we look at the record that Dion is actually stating in this tournament already. What are you playing?
You know, it's quite ironic. The other day I was playing a tournament, a 60-player tournament, and my round 2 was against a virtual player. And it's quite easy to forget how quickly you forget things about decks that are relatively old.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, geez, I took like a month-long break from the game, and I was like, wait, this card does that? Like, was it always worded like this? Wait, this doesn't target? Since when? But I imagine in this case, Melodious will be going first. I think something on that. When he's going first, what angle do you think he's going to be trying to apply pressure on? Is this a deck that puts up a lot of interaction, or is this something that kind of stops your opponent from playing in here?
It's a bit of both. So the interaction that it puts up is very little, but it's very strong because of a card called Aria. So Aria basically says that your Melodious monsters can't be targeted or be destroyed by battle.
Okay, I mean, that's already huge. That's massive.
So,
every deck wants one of those.
Against Voiceless Voice, if they don't play exactly Underworld Goddess, they don't have any outs. Their deck just doesn't have any outs. So this matchup is a 80-20.
Okay, wow.
It is.
Okay.
It is extremely one-sided for the Melodious player, provided, you know, they draw their hand traps and
they make it to the Aria. Like they need to get there, and then they need to find a way to sit on it. So
absolutely.
I think what we can try and do actually, whilst players are just shuffling up for game 2, is let's try to see if we can find out what the sideboard looks like over here for the Voiceless Voice deck. So looking at this, I mean, there's definitely things to work with. So Cosmic Cyclone, DD Crow, Dark Ruler, D-Barrier, I guess that can be called on the fusions, but he is going second, so it's not... I mean, sorry. He is going second.
I think what's most likely to come in is probably the Dark Ruler No More, which is very impactful against Melodious. And probably as well the Ghost Spell, since Ghost Spell is very efficient in stopping the Soprano add back and the Baka Reborn and all that. But players on Thomas's side start with the normal summon of Refrain adding Couplet doesn't... You should realistically trigger the Couplet here to summon the Cannon from hand, because the Cannon summon is a hard once per turn, but just scaling the Couplet effect to adding Concerto.
I think that nib in hand could be very important on turn 2 when the play passes over.
Possibly, yes. The Drytron monsters do add a lot to the summon count. Activating Concerto, fusing with the Couplet and the Refrain, summoning Baka, channeling 1 Baka, channeling 2 Couplet, channeling 3 Refrain. They will rescale themselves to the pen zones. And then Baka on resolution will summon a Melodious monster from deck, Shopina, and then you can go ahead and activate Refrain's Pendulum Scale effect, targeting the Baka to send either a Soprano or a Aria from your deck to graveyard, which Shopina can then just immediately add back. Sending Soprano, so he wants to guarantee he has a combo line. Shopina targeting the Soprano. This is where you would meet with a Bow.
Ooh.
Very, very strong, very, very optimal.
I mean, in a situation like this, is there a lot to extend still, or?
There's a lot, so there's multiple things you can do here. You can go straight into the Bloom Harmonist, which is the link 2 for Melodious, which plays through all of this. So the thing for Melodious, right, it's a lot like Snake Eye, where one hand trap is often not enough to end their turn.
Okay, I see.
You need multiple compounding hand traps to really make an impact. So although this bow is like at the most optimal, perfect place, it's being met with a cross out anyway.
Wow. Okay. I mean, if you have it there, then you do still have ways to extend past this. I mean, let's get it out of the optimal way, let's continue, and then if anything else comes up, then you can try and push it further. So
I think it is correct to cross out here, because if you don't, then you, instead of playing through 2 hand traps, now if you cross out, you play through 3 hand traps effectively.
I mean, 3 hand traps is a lot. I mean, especially if your opponent even has 3 hand traps by turn 1. I mean, then they're starting their turn with two cards in hand and a draw.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's already a big advantage if you're able
that
to
makes your
push through.
non-engine even more impactful, because we can see that Thomas is sitting with Nibiru and Vela in his hand, which with 2 cards is very impactful. But Shopino is adding back the Soprano, and then we're Pendulum summoning the Soprano, and then immediately just activating it. All 3 of these should go into the Flowering Etwile on resolution. Baka should trigger to summon back the Soprano, and Concerto should go to the bottom of the deck to draw 1 since a fusion monster was sent to graveyard.
Oh, let's see. Hopefully all these triggers are caught. by
summoning back their Sharpener instead. You can also do that. It really just depends on what you're trying to do. Summoning the Flowering Etal to the EMZ is also very unique.
Yeah, I mean, that stops you from really getting other link plays if you need them. Without using the fusion monster, of course.
Yes.
I mean, here we have, that's Herald of the Orange Light over there as well.
I think Thomas might just be wanting to do a much simpler, much more cleaner line, not trying to go for an Aria cheese, but keep it simple, you know? Special summoning the Cannon, because he controls a Melodious monster, and then here he's just going to think about what he wants to do for the rest of the turn.
I mean, he has a lot of interaction in his hand currently, which is great.
He does. Unfortunately, his zone placement was just a little bit odd here. If he put the Flowering Etal in a main monster zone, he would be able to make Bloom Harmonist here and then extend further into an Aria line.
Okay, let's see what he ends up coming up with. But one of the things here, I mean, with a deck list where you're combining two engines, at times where I think this might be one of them, is you do lose a bit of the ability to run a lot of hand traps, especially in this hand trap heavy format. So as much as we have seen the Ghost Ball come out, we're not too sure if there's really much more to pressure in that regard with hand traps or generic hand traps available.
But it looks like Thomas has just passed to Diane and then standby main, first play, normal summon low, placing the barrier from deck. I would have liked to have seen Orange Light negating the slow because it stops a lot, but maybe we're more afraid of the Drytron cards.
Yeah, there's a high chance that there's an unfamiliarity to Drytron here and quite a lot of weariness, especially if you look at that game one and you look at how much value the Drytron cards actually applied. I can imagine sitting there, I mean, I barely know Drytron myself. I've played against them before, and it is a case of you do get very weary and you're like, okay, cool, like I have to stop these specific cards. But now you face them again and it looks like this is just all Voiceless Voice now. So
the risk is really just that the Voiceless Voice brings out so much protection for your Drytron plays that they're so impactful that you sort of have to stop them. Even if you're wary and afraid of the Drytron cards, the Voiceless Voice cards do enough on their own that they warrant a response.
Yeah, definitely something you need to be careful of. And of course, this being the second round, there is a battle phase here as well. I mean, great that these monsters are in defense position, and there's 3 of them, but there's still a lot of work that can be done here. I'm not too sure about an OTK from what I'm seeing at least, and a nib in hand if they do want to extend quite far. But it's probably possible if they really get their line right.
There really shouldn't be an OTK here. Etal can temporarily banish any number of Melodious monsters you control until the end phase, and then return up to an amount of the cards you banish. So what you would normally do is you would banish all your monsters except Etal, return up to those amounts, and then if Etal is removed from the field by the opponent's card, it will then float into a Melodious monster from your deck or extra deck.
Oh wow, okay.
Which is very strong,
yeah.
But you would float into Baka, which on summon can special summon another Melodious monster from your deck.
Okay, so you're doing a lot of summoning on your opponent's turn as well, where you can actually pull your board to stop those OTK lines quite efficiently. It looks like, quite sure that's Zeta? Question mark? Delta, okay.
Delta. So Delta reads you can reveal a ritual monster or ritual spell in your hand, draw 1 card. So we attributed Natasha. Are you familiar with what Natasha does?
No. I've definitely played against it, but I cannot recall the wording on that one.
So Natasha, you banish a Cyber Angel from your graveyard and then target 1 monster your opponent controls, special summon Natasha, and take control of that monster you targeted.
Oh wow.
And that is not once per turn.
Oh, so you can just loop your Natashas. Okay.
And then the deck plays 3 Benton as well.
Yeah, so you can just, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of value.
It's a lot of board breaking potential, but we're overlaying the low and the Delta here for Mubeta. Mubeta probably going to try and send Alpha, but being met with a Veiler. Very, very good, because this also negates the Delta from using its XYZ materials as ritual material.
Yeah, I think that's quite a big Veiler and very good play here. I mean, we were talking a lot about how Voiceless Voice needs to be stopped, but I think that this is part of an important section of saving these things for the Drytron cards. It looked like that was a battle phase declaration?
Yes, it was. So we're just going battle phase.
Oh, wow.
Very
Droplet coming in.
interesting.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got the negate, and it's also halving the attack.
Yes, which is not too relevant because they're all in defense mode.
Mm.
But this is a very, very interesting line.
Okay, and then main phase 2, what can we work with? I mean, is this just a Zeus line?
It probably
It
is.
is
but
just a
we
Zeus
can Nibiru here.
Mm.
Well, on the summon of...
On the summon of Zeus, correct, yeah. Because Zeus would be the 5th summon, right?
Yes. Because it was the 2 monsters that were summoned, and then down it is the 4th one. The Beta is the 3rd, down is the 4th, and then Zeus would be the 5th summon. As well as this opening up Dion to a turn 3 Typhon play, which could be very impactful. But first we're going to talents, look at the hand.
Oh no, this is where the nib gets taken. The nib's going to be shuffled back from the talents, and we're going to get the...
An audible wow just left Dion's mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. He was scared of it, and he's managed to get rid of the exact threat he was scared of. I think this was a very good play here, stopping at 4 and actually deciding, look, I have to talent here because if I don't, it might be game over for me.
I think it is anyway, because even if he does get to summon the Zeus here, you wouldn't orange light it because you gain so much advantage from your Etwal, being able to go into your buck, go into your refrain, and to add couplet, to summon from graveyard. Just overwhelming advantage.
But here we go, chain 1 Zeus. Let's see if there's anything that's going to be put on top of this. Ooh, contemplating that orange light.
Looks like he is going to orange light. Really just wants to get rid of all of the Zeus materials.
Yeah, orange light, Zeus, Zeus. Zeus chains is chain link 3, and we do still have a board clear.
On resolution, Etwal gets to activate. And then ironically, because we summoned a Melodious fusion from the extra deck, those pendulum monsters get to rescale themselves.
Okay, so this is on every summon from the, well, I imagine once per turn.
Yeah,
please tell me it's once per turn.
It's once per turn. So basically, what is happening is that the advantage gained from Zeus wiping the field is automatically just going to be regained. He's actually going to be left with more cards after the Zeus resolves.
Oh, wow. Let's see, it looks like there's just a clarification on Forbidden Droplet as to whether that effect still goes through. From my understanding, it probably should if it's in the grave. I don't think it counts as the same copy that's been affected by Forbidden Droplet.
Probably should.
We'll see what the judge states here.
Yeah. So Baka gets summoned. And then Chainlink 1 Baka, and then the Pendulum monsters, he forgets to trigger them, but they should be able to rescale themselves.
So is it almost like a condition that they have to meet? So it's just if there's a summon of a fusion, they get to activate from the extra deck.
From the extra deck, yes.
I think that's really nice because you can choose you can opt when to make use of it.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting line for the deck itself.
It's very relevant against Tempire as well because of the prevalence of like Lightning Storm and Black Rose. Just regain so much lost advantage. Anyway, Couplet, when it's added to hand, can summon a Melodious monster from your hand or graveyard. So it's going to summon back Soprano, and Soprano on special summon gets to add back a Melodious monster from your graveyard. Most likely going to try and add back the Cannon. Yep. So he's left with 3 cards on field, 2 cards in hand, draws a card per turn, a cross out.
Cross out. Oh, that's, I mean, we haven't seen too much from them just yet. So I think that cross out could still be live. We haven't seen too many hand traps drawn and played. There could still definitely be more. Also, both players are playing the orange lights. So you could actually cross out an orange light here.
Actually relevant.
Although there is only 1 card in hand. So, I mean, maybe not now, but I think for the matchup, it's a relevant one.
But this is a lot of advantage for the Melodious player. They get to summon a Schuberta or go straight into another Flowering Etwal here as well. Unfortunately, the Concerto does not get to trigger because it has to be in the graveyard before a fusion monster is sent to the graveyard. So it's just the Baka that gets to activate here to reborn the Sharpina as well as the Pendulum monsters rescaling themselves.
This does mean that with Pendulum you can bring out the Cannon from the Pendulum summon, or does it have its own inherent effect to be summoned?
No, you would be able to Pendulum summon to your extra monster zone. This deck is not a Pendulum deck. You can't
It just has the
it
pendulum.
just has pendulum. It's like super heavy. It's not a pendulum. It just has pendulums.
So this is the fusion not pendulum compared to the synchronaut pendulum that you get with super heavy. I do like the resource loop that's going on here, and I am actually finding this matchup quite interesting as well. There's a lot of back and forth happening here. But in game 2, it looks like
Melodious has an infinite combo where you can add soprano, add back your extract monsters, and then Sharpino, add back your soprano, and you can do that every single turn.
Oh wow!
So that's one of the reasons why this deck is so strong in the grind game. It's just because you have this infinite loop of extract monsters every single turn.
Gift that keeps on giving.
Very reminiscent to like Runic or Fluendaries with its infinite recurring resources.
All the banished birds always coming back.
We went refrain targeting our Etwal, sending Aureus. Our Etwal gains 800 attack, and then Sharpino can also add back that Aurea. Then we can pen summon, as well as the Soprano on field being able to fusion summon into a Bloom Prima, which gains 300 attack for each fusion tier used, and then it can make 2 attacks during each battle phase.
I mean,
so if you use 2 materials, it becomes 2,500. Attacks twice, it's 5,000.
5,000. You just need to find 3,000 from your other monsters.
Which the flowering Etwal is already on.
Okay, I mean, this is probably enough. You can see here's the calculator out. I love seeing this where when dealers bring up the calculator, you're like, either it's it can be very entertaining. Like either it's enough, but I mean that looks like, is that 7-3 on the calculator here? Looks like gonna have to extend a little bit further to get that extra 700 damage.
Okay, so he's playing it safe. He's just going for a Maestra. I should say. And then battle phase 3,000, 3,500, and a 2,300, which should be game.
Working the final amounts out. Let's see if this might be our first 1-1 that we get to see on stream. And yep, there we go. So okay, 1-1 with these duelists now. So we're moving on to the final game. Voiceless Voice Drytron versus Melodious.
The all-important game 3.
Absolutely. And I mean, if we try to take a little bit of a look at those sides again, I mean, we've taken a look at Diane's side, but let's take a look at what we have for Thomas. So interesting. So he actually has one of the Melodious cards in the side. Is that standard with the Tantam?
It is, because Tamtam, when it's sent to graveyard for a fusion summon, you can target a Melodious monster you control against 500 attack, and then you burn the opponent for 500.
Okay.
I suppose you can guess what that's used for.
Yeah, it's just that final little bit of damage that you need to eke out on your opponent. So I imagine that's going to come through over here in the game 3.
We can imagine that the Cross-Out Designator, the Rivalry of Warlords, and the Dimensional Barrier will also be coming in. Oh, sorry, not really, because...
Yeah, that would be going second, but I mean, maybe that's the spiciest play. You play that, you flip it, because your opponent can't kill you game 1 if they're going first.
You side in the D-Barrier so you can cross-out it.
That's the power play, because the D-Barrier is going to be coming in from our side. Bring in one D-Barrier, don't let them do that, because you'll have your cross-outs. But yeah, definitely the third cross-out, I can't imagine it not coming in. Especially with the Herald of Orange Light that we mentioned earlier.
There's really not a lot in Thomas's side besides the DD Crow that could come in for this matchup, because DD Crow is very good in this matchup. It could hit a potential Divino of the Heralds when it's distributed for cost. You can chain the DD Crow so that Divino doesn't get to trigger.
Oh wow, and that's also using up your normal low.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a dirty play, but a very good one.
You can DD Crow the low, but what I like to really do is DD Crow the Saphira from the graveyard, so it denies them a ritual summon. Especially since it's Drytron versus Voice as well, there's a lot more targets for DD Crow. It can be very flexible, but we'll have to see what these duelists try and do.
Yeah, I do think, like, on that note, this might be a case of there's a lot of options, but you have to get the correct one. If you're targeting the wrong target and it's not something, for one, it's not a once per turn, which we've seen a lot of. But secondly, just making sure it is a valid one for you to actually get to your win con. Interesting for me though, evenly matched. Do you feel that is not something you want to bring in here?
I don't really think so. Game 1, Thomas saw Diane make Herald of Mirage Lights and multiple Skull Guardians. That's just way too many ways to negate an evenly matched.
I find it quite interesting how these board breakers can swing so in and out of favor as we go through formats, and not just in cards being released and decks coming out from a Yu-Gi-Oh product standpoint, but also just from players figuring things out and the meta evolving.
That is one of the reasons why Voiceless Voice is so good, is because it doesn't lose to all of these board breakers that players tech in for, like Snake Eyes and whatever. Just because it's so resilient. Having one of the few decks in the format that actually has spell trap negates. Very, very good.
That's not something that we see all the time anymore, especially with Baron being banned,
Exactly.
being taken out in the last banned and restricted update. But here we go. It's going to be a start for Drytron Voiceless Voice, and there's the DD Crow in the opening hand, Ash Blossom as well. So we have quite a bit of interaction.
Oh, but starting off an instant fusion here, very scary.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Possible Millennium Eyes Restrict coming out, which would turn off one of Thomas's hand traps.
What is next? Okay, yep, as you said, Millennium Eyes Restrict. That's going to be a big play.
And then we have Alpha Tribute Zeta, the bread and butter.
Yeah, that is just, oh my word. From A to Z, Drytron getting started. This might be quite an explosive turn, especially, I think this is so important for Thomas now. Like, how do you layer your DD Crony Ash Blossom?
What you would do here is when you go Zeta Tribute the Benton, you would Ash, they would chain the Millennium, then you would DD Crow the Benton. The Benton gives so much more advantage, but we already have a Voiceless Voice engine here.
Yeah,
so
the fact that Lowe's entered the field now, I mean, I think that there's a little bit too much to have to interact with.
Yeah, we can shut off the Drytron engine, but then you're just dealing with Voiceless Voice engine, and it's so much. Low being normal summon, placing barrier, adding Saphira effect, discard to send a ritual spell from deck to graveyard and add a Voiceless Voice monster.
Oh, I wonder if we're going to see it. Nope, opts to not use it. I do like seeing, compared to what we saw game one, where I think that the Ghost Spell and the Ash were used really early from Thomas, and now he's definitely being a lot more reserved in utilizing his hand traps, trying to find the right point to play them in. So good adjustment going into game three, but are those two cards really enough to to stop this?
I think regardless of what Thomas decides to do here, I think Diane is still going to end on at least a multitude of interruptions. So it's really going to be up to his engine to determine if he can break this board or not.
Oh.
Really?
I love seeing the movement of the face that is looking up like, really? Is this really when I want to do this? And yes, it is. Is it going to be enough though? Targeting the Saphira.
Chaining Millennium Eyes Restrict to equip the DD Crow, which negates the DD Crow's effect. It should
negate its effects, but let's see what's happening there.
Oh, sorry, it did negate its effect. We went Saphira banished to
he actually opposite used Saphira. Okay, I see. Okay, so just some chain clarification there.
Yes. So chaining 1 low, chaining 2 Ben-10, chaining 3 Skull Guardian. So we're gonna add a Light Fairy and a Voiceless Voice card from our deck to our hand. And then low is obviously going to, or did we tribute low? Was it another Drytron maybe? I'm not sure.
Do the Drytron XZs, the initial ones, do they require just level 1s, or does it have to be Drytron level 1s?
The Drytron X feeds can be made with any number of level 1s.
Okay, so if you want to, you could actually grab the Millennium Eyes with the Alpha.
Yeah. Go
from there, which I mean, I think that's awesome, having that dual purpose from the instant fusion.
Absolutely. The Zeta is also still in the graveyard, so that is still +1 body, plus another ritual spell as well. The Mu Beta that is probably going to be made with the Millennium Eyes, and the Alpha can send a Gamma, which represents 2 more bodies.
Oh wow. It's almost like you're thinking it's like a Link Climb deck, but it's actually just going to be bringing out some XZs and some rituals.
So Zeta attributing the Benton here, adding a Meteornus, and then Benton will be able to trigger to either add another Drytron, another Light Fairy, or another Benton.
Benton Loop is online.
And that Ash Blossom is just rotting in Thomas's hand.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to where they're wanting to use it here. Maybe on this.
We're making a Mu Beta with 3 materials. Very interesting. Sending a Draconids.
Let's see. Okay, what's the next movement that we're going to be seeing? Because once again, the Ash is just not. What I'm concerned about is that we get a negate on the field before the Ash is actually going to be used, and then it is just a completely dead card.
I mean, we do have a negate Skull Guardian as well.
True, yeah, it is like. Ooh.
Delta attributing a Benton here, revealing the Meteor's Drytron and hand, drawing one card, and then Benton gets a trigger. Again, probably to add a Herald of Orange Light to our hand.
I guess maybe saving the Ash for their return, like when it goes over to their turn, just in case there's something that happens. Your opponent's either trying to play in your turn or any sort of effect that has a draw component to it that you can Ash to negate the total effect.
I mean, there is maybe a consideration of keeping the Ash so that you can negate the Radiance in your own turn. Way be more impactful than trying to interrupt your opponent right now while they have so many engine cards. Activating Meteorus, we're detaching the Alpha and attributing the Delta on the field to summon Draconets from graveyard. So Draconets, since 4,000 attack, it needs 4,000 attack in value for it to be ritual summoned, which is 2 Drytrons worth.
Oh,
and just pass. So Draconets, you can quick effect banish 2 Drytron monsters from your graveyard. Target a card your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. Very, very good. Because we now control a machine ritual monster, Mu Beta is now a spell trap negate.
Oh, true. That's a clause I always forget about.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
The Skull Guardian is an Omni negate right now. The barrier is protecting all of their light monsters from being targeted because low is on the field.
So we almost have you can't target our monster zone. Yeah, you can't target our field. I guess your continuous spell is still targetable, but you can't target our field. It's throwing down 2 negates, and then we still have more interaction. We don't know what's in the hand there. There could be more to play with.
Normal summon of Refrain here. You almost want to add Refrain. Not adding? Did I miss something?
Not sure. Maybe there was a declaration, but
maybe we're just scared of Skull Guardian. Oh no, just Baguska Turbo. Never mind.
Oh, okay. I mean, let's just turn everything off over on the field.
You know, whatever gives you an extra turn.
I mean, I think this is actually a pretty decent play here. I mean, you have the Ash, you have the draw. Yes, all you're getting coming back to your turn is just a simple draw. That's it. You're not getting anything more out of it, really.
Unfortunately, the Drytron cards are very, very good into Baguska. They don't activate on the field, and they enable some very powerful link monsters. Starting off the turn, you have Drytron Nova going to give him access to Gamma now. If you ever wanted to Ash Blossom,
oh, it is now the time.
Now's the time.
Oh.
I think regardless of what your Ash Blossom here, it's going to be very, very hard because the Alpha is going to be able to tribute searching a Natasha, and then the Zeta tributes to Natasha, and you ritual summon the Natasha, and then Natasha can just take the Baguska.
Take the Baguska and then link it off. Yeah. take it somewhere else.
So I think if you're going to Ash, you're going to Ash here. Now the problem is you get orange lighted, which we knew about.
Yeah.
Like even if this Ash resolves, there's like 4 bodies in the graveyard they can summon back.
Yeah. Also, once Baguska leaves the field, if there is there's the monster we just spoke about, to be able to take it and kind of go from there. But these monsters, they're going to be able to just go to attack position anyways and just swing in. So nothing's really stopping us. So I'm not too sure about what can be done to come back in this situation.
I don't think there is really a lot. Ritual summoning the Natasha with 1 Drytron, and then immediately probably just going to go into a Dino Mondo.
Definitely, with this deck, definitely has the reps, knows the lines on how to get to these.
I mean, Diane has been a Drytron 1 trick for a number of years now. He's very comfortable with the
well
deck.
known to play it. So I think especially on that, I mean, if you see someone who is almost a specialist in a deck and they're willing to add another engine and play a more modern flavor of it, I guess, it is nice to see that because it's definitely working very well for him this tournament so far.
So it's just going to turn this all probably into either, I think an Appaloosa would be safe because we have game on board, but a Boral Sword, we're guaranteeing it.
Let's just make 100% sure.
Yeah.
I must say that draw last turn was a bit heartbreaking to see. It's not what you want at all.
No, imagine if you drew it though.
Imagine if you drew it. True.
But this should be all she wrote. excellent match played from both duelists, exceptionally well played from Diane as well. Good Melodious representation, interesting side patterns from both players as well.